Welcome to the Winning Platform Owner Podcast, a podcast that is dedicated to enabling ServiceNow platform owners with valuable knowledge, tools, and strategies. We have a special guest on the podcast today. Oliver Novak joins us all the way from the United Kingdom to talk to ServiceNow platform owners on the topic of AI. Why should we invest our time in learning AI? How should we be thinking about AI for the platform? And finally, what are the things we should be actively doing right now in this space as ServiceNow platform owners? So if you're ready for some great content on AI and the ServiceNow platform, then let's go. Well, welcome to the show, everyone. And if you're joining for the first time, a very special welcome to you. Glad you're here. I'm Ben Pierce, your host on the Winning Platform Owner Podcast. This podcast is all about helping ServiceNow platform owners become winning platform owners. And winning means your organization is getting the most out of its investment in the platform, and you are upping your game as a platform owner every single day. And yes, we are trying to win every single day. Well, hey, welcome back to the team of platform owners who are here every episode. We appreciate you guys. Don't stop reaching out to me in all the normal ways that you do with feedback and questions. Really appreciate it. You know, that's why we're here on the Winning Platform Owner Podcast, and we love supporting ServiceNow platform owners. Well, one of the areas that we look always in terms of winning on the platform is in the area of how can we exploit new capabilities, right? That can bring value to our organization. And right now, there is no capability talked about more by ServiceNow than its AI capabilities. You hear something about it on a daily basis. We're going to hear a lot about it at Knowledge, you can guarantee. So I thought it would be great if my friend Oliver Novak could join us on the show and talk about AI in general, but also talk about it in the context of the platform. Right now, a lot of platform owners that I talk to are still trying to get their arms around, well, you know, what should I be paying attention to in this whole slew of communication and kind of the deluge of marketing stuff that I get into my email inbox and other places on the topic of AI? What should I be even paying attention to? Why should it matter? But then really, how do I think about it, and what should I actually be doing right now in order to take advantage of some of these new capabilities? So that's really what this conversation is meant to help with. Ollie and I have lots of these conversations on topics like this week in and week out. And I always get a lot out of my conversations with him. So I'm hoping that you will get the same kind of value that I've gotten from talking with Ollie here in this next really what will be a couple of episodes. It was a great conversation. So let's go ahead and jump into our conversation on AI with Oliver Novak. AI is all around us as ServiceNow platform owners. So want to have some conversation around that. And Ollie is our resident expert and has graciously agreed to come on the podcast and have a conversation. So welcome, Ollie.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'll let other people decide how much of an expert I am once we're done. But
so let's start out just learning a little bit about you and what makes you tick, and then we'll get into your ServiceNow background. So tell us a little bit about Ollie.
Yeah, so I think, you know, starting with technology, I guess, because that's what we're here to talk about. I think I'm a person who loves technology. I've always been interested in it. I've always gone back and forth through my life as to like what I see my real niche being, because I love technology, but I'm not necessarily someone who would sit, you know, coding or developing. But I love the concept of you know, the application of technology and how it impacts people's lives, and how it can be for the better and for the worse. And really that's where I've come to find my niche, for want of a better phrase, because it's I think particularly with AI and what's the coming wave that's kind of hitting us. It's very much, there's a lot of talk about how technology is going to be applied in the world, and what impact that's going to have on society as a whole, businesses as a whole, all sorts really. So that's what I'm almost like most interested in. So that's what drove me into the tech industry, sort of like out of university, and then that's kind of I've been sort of working in the sort of to transition to the ServiceNow side of things. I've been working in the ServiceNow industry since then. Originally, obviously bearing that sort of non-technical background in mind, I started out in sales, where I got sort of a really good grounding in learning how technologies are used, applied in businesses, what people are looking for, and that sort of thing, what they struggle with. And then from there, I've been fortunate enough to do a bit of a horizontal shift within CrossFuse in my career and move into our advisory team, the more sort of like strategic wraparound side to technology, to ServiceNow specifically, which, bearing in mind my interest of applying technology and the impact it has, it always felt like a nice sweet spot for me. And then natural curiosity for AI has kind of taken over the last year or so, and over the last couple of months or so, I've been asked to focus all of my working time at least, and some of my personal time on AI, and really figure out what the technology means for us as a business, what it means for the ServiceNow industry, what it means for our customers, and really figure out what we should be focusing our efforts on, what our customers care about, building them new services, new offerings, that sort of stuff. So, which I've absolutely loved. So the time's flown by, so I can't believe it's already been 2 months, but there we go.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I know you've been kind of neck deep in the AI space for a long time, because we've known each other a long time, and you've always been in it at the personal level, at the very least, right?
Yeah.
Kind of learning and growing. And now, boy, I would put you up against anybody that I've heard in the ServiceNow ecosystem in terms of talking about AI and what it really means, to us as ServiceNow professionals, and certainly the audience of this podcast, which is predominantly platform owners. So I'm glad you're here, and I think everybody's going to get a lot of value out of it. I thought that we would start the conversation just at like the 50,000 foot view, right? And we will go to the ServiceNow landscape, but if we zoom out and just consider the last couple of years, where it's just really just exploded all around us, the technology of AI, and they're all different types of AI, but it's just exploded everywhere. Why should a person even pay attention to AI? I mean, if we've been around any length of time, we've seen technology bubbles and the internet bubble and all of this stuff. And so we know there's goodness there, but I think the first thing to think about is, why do we even pay attention in the first place? Why should we be paying attention to this technology now? What does it have to offer?
Yeah. So the main focus for me is, and this actually goes back to what you and I were talking about a few minutes ago, actually, which is that really AI is very much a general purpose technology. So by that I mean it has countless applications any way you look. You know, as you can see with the marketing hype, right? Every single
Yeah.
brand in some shape or form is talking about AI, and some
Mm.
of that is smoke and mirrors at the end of the day. But there is also some truth to it. There's nothing it doesn't apply to at the end of the day. And what that basically means is it's just exploding everywhere you look. It's there, and it's causing change, and it's causing, you know, disruption. Some positive, some maybe slightly negative. And the way I heard someone else explain it once, which I thought was brilliant, was talking about it in the way of a cluster, right? Which is basically a technology cluster. So basically multiple different innovations kind of coming together into one. And basically what these innovations are doing is they're feeding off each other and driving each other. So the last real cluster that we had was obviously the internet. So how much has that permeated the way we live our lives now? With, you know, we couldn't be hosting this podcast the way we are right now without the internet. We maybe tonight when we're watching TV, you know, that's relying on the internet when it never did before. Our smartphones entirely internet dependent. All these different things, which has now completely changed the way that we live. And AI is going to continue to do, it has done already, but going to continue to do the exact same thing. It's almost like standing on the shoulders of everything that the internet has already disrupted, and going to do it even more so. So that's how I would describe it, right? And basically that generates exponential growth. It generates a huge amount of momentum, which is just not going to slow down at all. If anything, we're just kind of really starting. I think you and I, Ben, did a talk, didn't we, with our sales team at the start of the year, where we were talking about the growth rate of ChatGPT, and we were talking about model sizes, and the way in a 6-year span it had increased by thousands of times in terms of model size and compute power, and had been trained on I think hundreds of times, 500 times the amount of training data or something, if I remember the stat correctly, which is just in a matter of 6 years. So imagine where we're going to be going next from there. And just to kind of put a bit more on the meat of the bones, to kind of talk about what I'm to bring a bit of color to what I'm talking about, is AI is going to also drive a whole load of innovations that we don't even know exist yet, like the whole synthetic biology piece, the whole quantum computing piece, the whole nanotechnology piece. And actually, many experts believe we're only 10 years away from reaching that AGI point, the general intelligence point, where AI will be as intelligent as a human being, and that's scary. We've got models already that are as big or as powerful as the human brain is in terms of computing power. They exist today. They're just not quite as efficient yet as human brains in consuming information and digesting it. But ultimately, that computing power already exists. So why should people pay attention? Because ultimately we're at the start, and naturally that means the disruption that's going to cause has just started as well. And when I say disruption is very negative, or is taken very negatively a lot of the time. And naturally, change brings a lot of negativity. But I think a lot of it's going to be very positive as well. And a book I was reading recently was very much talking about there's as many positives as there are negatives, right? So imagine nanotechnology floating through our bodies that's able to treat cancer at the source, sorry, rather than waiting to diagnose someone and then treat someone reactively. We can be much more proactive. And if this technology is as close as a lot of experts are forecasting it to be, we're potentially 20, 30 years away from that, which is unbelievable, because, you know, for many of us that's our lifetime. So so that's ultimately, hopefully in a reasonably sized nutshell, why it's important, right? And why you should, at the very least, pay attention, if not get involved yourself.
Yeah, you know, after that talk that we gave and through many different conversations with you on the topic, basically the way I've come to think about it is you need to pay attention to AI. And where I was stumbling was I thought, oh, I need to get very deep into it and go along for the ride on every aspect of it. That's not the point. The point is don't ignore it, right?
Yeah.
Start your learning curve now. Try to stay on top of the wave and ride it so that you are in a good place, whatever your profession is. We're talking ServiceNow platform and platform owners, but whatever your profession is, you're in a good place where you can then go make those decisions. Okay, where do I need parity? In other words, I can use the technology just like everyone else does, chat
Yeah.
GPT,
Yeah.
and or where do I need to now invest my thinking, invest my resources in order to gain competitive advantage for my business,
Mm.
or things of that nature. So yeah, I love that. I'm probably not going to edit anything out of that answer, Ollie, because it's really good way to think about it, and you bring up some really good points across the positive nature that we're looking at advances that are going to be really positive in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Let's talk about now down to the ServiceNow platform,
Yeah.
right? And AI. As platform owners, we've basically been being inundated with talk around AI from a ServiceNow perspective. Knowledge 25 is getting ready to come up, and we're going to get hit with all kinds of stuff as well. And I'm not trying to minimize it. It's all valuable information to consume and consider. But in your mind, first, how should a platform owner be thinking about
Yeah.
AI in terms of the ServiceNow platform? And once we get there, maybe then we can talk about, well, what should we be thinking about?
Yeah, absolutely. So the right way to think about it is almost to remain very grounded, very sensible with all of it. So I think there's a lot of ego associated with technology, right? So every every individual wants to be the scientist that makes a certain breakthrough that moves AI along, moves the needle drastically. Every tech firm wants to be the one that's the most pioneering and the most transformative. Every country wants to be, driving the agenda on global AI development. So what you have to be careful of is very much be able to distinguish that hype bubble from reality. So really, this comes back to this concept of smoke and mirrors again that I was talking about earlier. A lot of it is smoke and mirrors, and you need to be careful when faced with that. What's important is circle back and think about your business, right? So start with your data, start with your version of ServiceNow, analyze the data and see what are the pain points at the moment, what are the repetitive processes that you're coming across regularly that make your working day painful, or anyone who's in the operational landscape, they're making their day painful. And think about, okay, is there any data that sits behind these repetitive processes? Is that data there in volume? Is it accessible? Is it clean? Is it 100% relevant to exactly what that particular process is focused on delivering? And then start there, basically. And don't be fooled into jumping with 2 feet into AI agents. Agentic workflows are not the answer to everything. Definitely not. So again, the way I've been trying to frame this recently, particularly when I've been giving internal enablement sessions, is think about a deterministic workflow or process versus a non-deterministic one. And this really brings to bear the advantages and the pros and cons of an agentic workflow versus just a more traditional one. So a deterministic workflow where you've got a very clear linear route, you've got structured steps, and every time that process runs, those exact same steps run in the exact same order. That's what we'd call a deterministic workflow. That can be automated in countless ways that are non-AI based, specifically, or non-agentic based, right? So because you can just use a lot simpler rule-based automation for it. Then the tier above that is what I often call an AI augmented workflow, which is, right, let's start layering intelligent capabilities in. So is there a particular step along this process where, a call out to an LLM might make the process better, enhance it, make it, say it's a customer experience or a customer service workflow, it might make it more personalized, might make it more detailed. Then great, like 100% focus on that, 100% introduce it, but only if it's really going to absolutely enhance that process and that workflow as it is today. And then lastly, the agentic workflow is, if you've got a completely unstructured process with a huge amount of variance every single time, you've got a lot of unstructured data that's feeding it. By that I mean free text, images, that sort of thing. Then that's where the agentic stuff is brilliant, because it's going to be able to apply judgment and reasoning to that lack of structure and figure out, with that particular information that it's given, with that particular outcome and output in mind, what steps do I need to take? What tools do I need to leverage in order to fulfill this process? And that's where agentics is really powerful. But that doesn't now mean, if we're routing an incident in ServiceNow, that we apply an agent to that. If we've got our category and our configuration items populated on a form in the same way we previously were, we can build very simple rule-based routing off that. We don't all of a sudden need to apply an agent to that. So hopefully that gives a little bit of an insight into like, where should you start? So the idea is simply start simple, start with your existing workflows. Like, how can they be improved? How can they be streamlined and prepared for success with AI? Then start layering it into individual steps, and then start thinking about, okay, how can we transform a process completely end to end, because we know it's completely unstructured, and we know agentics is going to really make a big difference to it.
And that's what we have time for this episode. Be sure and join us again next time as we finish up our conversation with Oliver Novak. Until then, all the best in your ServiceNow platform owner journey. We'll see you next time.